Thanks for checking out my video. If you want to learn more from me, I have a lot of classes on Udemy. You can find the links to a lot of those in the description.
Alrighty, as long as this recording thing is working and as long as my brain starts working, then we're going to talk about different levels of spiritual activity. Now, we're talking about this in more of a negative sense, and I did not want to use the word demon or demonic, mainly because that has such like a negative um, connotation. So we can kind of break this stuff down. So, actually, in the Greek, the difference between spirits was kind of categorized, where you have the good ones given the word angelos, which means messenger, and then the bad ones being daimonion or daimonion. And I'm trying to remember what that word means off the top of my head, but it's just not here. So anyway, you have the delineation of good and bad. Now, of course, magic in itself is neither good or bad. It's all about intention and whatnot. So it's really different spirits that are out there and what their intentions and motivations are. Because you can have communication from different spirits that are positive and whatnot, and you build a relationship with them. And then you can also have ones that show up and they find a way to influence you through various different means, and of course, those are negative. It could be like anyone else in the world. You got to think about the spiritual reality around you in the same way that people are around you. There are good people and bad people. There are people that will open the door for you, and then there are people that will want to rob you blind or, try to take your wallet, stuff like that. So, I could probably make a separate video on that kind of stuff. Let me know if you guys want that kind of thing. But basically, all right, let's just jump right into this stuff. I'll probably make a separate video on this other chest. But when it comes to negative spiritual activity or demonic activity, then there are three different levels. There's infestation, oppression, and possession. And they kind of, it's like you have a pot of water and you turn on the heat and it boils its way up. Things kind of have to first, or even like an infection, first it gets in there, you have no symptoms, and then the symptoms build up, and then you have a full blown cold, that kind of thing. And just like the immune system with your body, there are certain ways of doing protection against these kinds of things. And, this also depends on the path that you follow with this kind of stuff. I'm probably not going to go too much into the psychological model of stuff. I'm going to more lean on the spiritual model of things because, demonic activity and whatnot, as far as psychological model goes, they're going to want to tell you it's all mental illness and jazz like that. So we're mainly going to stick with the spiritual model here. So, infestation is more or less along the lines of things going bump in the night, things moving around, things getting knocked off the walls, things going missing, bad luck, and happenstance and whatnot. And just those kind of external things that don't really have a characteristic or like a real world explanation. You can have things like going missing and whatnot. And a couple of things about this is when you can have negative spirits that you've brought home from somewhere. You can attract negative spirits from your own emotional state, where if you are in a state of depression and sadness and even high stress and whatnot, that kind of lowers your spiritual immune system, and then that can open you up to these kinds of presences. There's different things that they can just go and pass through. Like a couple of years ago, there were some coyotes living out here in the woods, and they were just passing through. Do I see them all the time? Do I see them every year? No, but they just happen to kind of do that. Or like the bear that went through a shopping center, in a couple of towns over. He's not there all the time. He just happened to be romping around and whatnot. And then anybody that would have gotten in his way would have probably gotten eaten, but that didn't happen. Still funny. Um, so that's the um infestation kind of thing. Now, to guard against demonic infestation, you really want to handle your emotional state very, very well. you don't want to fall into the pitfalls and traps of depression, anxiety, um, you know, just getting into those negative states, not eating well, not sleeping well. Anything that affects your emotional state can leave you open to these kinds of things. And there are even bigger doors that can be opened for this kind of stuff. Now, anyone of the Christian or Catholic persuasion will tell you that working with Ouija boards and tarot cards and going to fortune tellers and blah 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 and working acts of the occult, as they like to say. I like to argue that they don't even pronounce it right. Um, Remember, occult just means hidden. Um, that those are doors to the demonic, right? And of course, they think anything that's not of God is demonic, um, or not of their God is demonic. So it's very black and white to them. But anybody that works in magic and working with spirits and whatnot will tell you that there's plenty of spirits that are not. Specifically, or from my experience anyway, you have the 50 names of Marduk, you have the different Sumerian spirits, and there are good ones and bad ones. And then even in the Karo tradition, the shamanic tradition that me and my lady follow, which we do have a mentoring program for, by the way. You can shoot me an email about that. Anyways, there are plenty of good spirits. Now, just like anywhere else out in the world, there are really, really great spirits that want to help and want to build a relationship, because spirits are all about relationship. It's about whether, and you can kind of define good and bad spirits about what the balance is there. Or in the character tradition, what we call Ayni, where it's Ayni, where it's a balanced kind of thing. Just like humans, spirits want relationships, where we are social creatures. We want to be friends with people. We want to form relationships. And then a lot of times, unless you're a psychopath or a jerk, then it's of mutual benefit. So, my friends, which, by the way, this whole video was requested by one of my Patreon supporters who's also a friend. So thank you, Patchwork. You have the balance there, but there are, of course, other people and bad spirits that want to take things from you. They want to feed off of your energy. They want to cause ruckus, and because that's who they are. Well, guess what? There's people out there like that too. Narcissists, people with borderline personality disorder, and other things. People that are arguably genuinely hurt, that then just want to hurt other people, because hurt people, right? Some doorways for those kinds of things is like history of abuse in various ways that I can't talk about on YouTube, and just even chronic abuse and stuff like that. Like when I was followed in college by shadow people, you could argue that was complex PTSD that opened the door for that kind of stuff. And then later on with my drinking problem, same kind of thing. I opened the door with that. Why? Because I'm doing things that are robbing my energy, lowering my spiritual defenses and whatnot. Even when you start working magic, and I've talked about this before, it's like turning on a light outside in the summer, and then flies come and attract themselves to it. So that's why protection in different things is very important. So you can have different protection talismans and different things like that you can charge. And, it could purely be the symbolism of it, from like a pentacle, and even the upside down pentacle is not of Satan as actually a protective thing. Even a cross from Christianity could be seen as protective. There's plenty of other protection symbols. I don't want to ramble on about those things, because you can simply Google those or follow your tradition. Even Thor's hammer is one of those. I have a necklace of that somewhere, and I'm trying to remember where. Probably over there in the altar. Hey, for once it's not upstairs. Anyways, so spirits in different places and whatnot, they can be very, very beneficial. But even if you go someplace that might be damaged or hurt, someplace that's ravaged by like wildfires or neglect with a ton of garbage or a lot of deforestation and human activity that's disrespecting the environment, spirits can get kind of angry. And those good spirits can be very, very defensive, but it can also breed negative spirits that then want revenge. And you can even bring one of those home, kind of in the same way that you can bring one home from a haunted house, stuff like that. And next part, Trying to think. Um, so let's just move on to oppression. So infestation is when it's all kind of external. Then you have oppression. Now this is a little bit more severe. Oppression is when they kind of start to influence you a little bit. So oppression, more or less, is they are able to kind of nudge you in various different ways, feed different ideas and thoughts. Now, you can have the benefit of this kind of, or the positive side of this kind of thing, which wouldn't be called oppression. It's a relationship, right? Where you can actually get messages from spirits that are good, telling you to make, helping you make good decisions and working on different positive things. If you build relationships with spirits through making offerings and different things like that, then they become spirit helpers, and then you have this iny going back and forth where you make offerings to them. Maybe you clean up the place where they live, whether it be like woods or a lake or any of those kinds of things, and then they want to help you. That's kind of the basis of the Kara tradition with the Pachacuti Mesa tradition. And then, small part of it, but anyway, it's there. Um, but on the negative side of this, you can have where you're depressed, doors are open, and then spirits start with the infestation, the kind of thing. You don't really do anything about it, or you try to do stuff about it, it doesn't exactly work, and then your defenses go down even more, and then they'll influence you on making negative decisions. Stay in bed and bed rot. Go ahead and have that drink. Don't you feel like drinking? You know, your friends are nothing. All these different kind of negative thoughts that spin around in your mind. Um, and along with the infestation things of different things not working out, that's going to cause you to go further down. So if you have any difficulties with bad habits, overeating, substance abuse, stuff like that, try to think of it in a spiritual model in this way. And even if it is purely psychological, we get healing at the basis that we are at. So if you lean more into the spiritual model, you can actually find healing in kind of compartmentalizing these psychological aspects as spiritual aspects and then banishing them through things like, minor exorcism, the IOB technique, and different spells and rituals to banish those entities. Because, you can have things and negative thoughts that are energy and then they create thought forms. And then it's kind of the same thing as a spirit, but it's just generated by you. And then it's up to you to get rid of it. Um, wow, this could be an entire freaking class, couldn't it? I might make that. So that's kind of the oppression piece where they are influencing the world around you and your own thoughts and therefore your actions that don't put you in a good direction. Do they? No, because you're going to keep doing negative things. You might isolate yourself, exhibit more, you know, abuses of different things, negative behaviors and whatnot, um, and then spiral you further down. Then you have possession, and possession can be, intermittent, where you can have things where like blackout symptoms, where literally spaces of time are gone because a spirit is now fully attached to you and they can literally ride you like a car. They can drive you like a car where then you're stuck in the trunk. This is extremely, extremely rare. And, you know, those kinds of things. And there is the aspect of perfect possession where the will of the person is completely given over to that possessing spirit, which is where it's kind of like not arguably that you like it. Maybe some people would, and then stuff just happens. But you're so beaten down that you just go along with it, and then you agree fully to it. If that makes any sense, let me know. I have experienced the kind of intermittent possession thing, not myself, but a girl that I dated in high school, and that from that experience is actually why I have this, because this was actually hers, and she was wearing this at the time of an exorcism that I actually did on her, which was my first like spiritual experience ever. So yay for willpower and whatnot. I may make a private video on that kind of thing because it is a very, 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 very personal story. If you're a friend of mine, you probably know the story already. But I've been told by multiple people that because this was present to that particular experience, that this kind of has a little bit of a dominion over other spirits. So I wear it as like a protection-y kind of talisman thingy. Um, but that requires complete banishment of the particular possessing spirit. And yep, segue. Remember, like all those different doors and stuff. Spirits are very, very legalistic. For the term that's used by a lot of priests and exorcists and stuff. Basically, they're like lawyers. Doors such as depression and anxiety and substance abuse and other things like that, and different agreements along those lines, even though it's not, it's like almost in the fine print, those give jurisdiction for different spirits to enter and influence, which is why if you live your life substance free and positive and you're not selfish and whatever, you are way less likely to be afflicted by these kinds of things. And so keep in mind with your own mental health and your own personal behavior for that kind of stuff. But when it comes to eliminating the presence of spirits, particularly in a possession case, you have to eliminate those different jurisdictional things. So if there's anything that you're doing that is allowing them in, such as substance abuse and other things like that, you have to rescind those rights. You have to not engage in those things and shut those doors that let those things in. So in the case of substance abuse, like, for my own example, quitting drinking, right? Um, Stuff like that. And that way they no longer have an open door to go through, if that makes any sense. So, that's about all the thoughts that I have on the topic for now. But definitely let me know if you want me to go deeper or feel free to ask any further questions about this topic, because this topic is super broad and I've been researching this on and off for about 14 months or so at this point, because spiritual activity in this way is just always been a passion for me, mainly because of my experience about 18 years ago vis-a-vis the event represented to me by this thing right here. So yep, if you're catching this video later than it was originally published, this was originally a membership video and a Patreon video. If you guys want early access to different stuff and even exclusive videos and classes and whatnot, then consider my membership here on YouTube and the Patreon tiers, because there's a lot of extras in there if you want to dive deep into the Simon Necronomicon and the Caro tradition shamanism, and even working one-on-one with me for gate walking and whatnot. So interested in this topic, want to know more, ask me questions, because I love the inspiration for making videos. Hopefully this kind of lit a bit of a light bulb or a spark in your mind, and let's see what I can come up with next. Anyways, good hunting.